Good morning, everybody. Markets are, I guess we can call it bullish price action in the moment. I'm just chopping sideways here after the run up, and they're staying above what we would consider the most bullish level. This dip down the other day almost got to the gap fill. Just kind of, I'm eyeballing it. It doesn't look like it quite got there, which communicates that buyers stepped up ahead of the most obvious place and pushed it right back up again. And yesterday was a go nowhere day, as you can see. And it was what was expected, right, to kind of whip back and forth and do nothing. So we've got the price void. Looking at the spiders here, the dip was bought. So far, it's going sideways. And if you look at this, I'm kind of eyeballing it on a closing basis. It was just a sharp run up and a little dip and sideways. And you can see what's going on here. Pre-market, not much of anything. So there's some things that have been beaten down that are looking like they're turning around. I mentioned Win yesterday. So there are patterns similar to that out there where things were beaten up. I can type. And it's a little retest. So we don't have that kind of event bar or that something bar. It was just a relatively small bar. What we really like to see is when it breaks the low, that we get a bar like this over here. So may not be ready. It's in the right place. If we look to the left, it's right near this pivot low. And this slowing of momentum pattern where it breaks the low, the greater than 100% retracement and stabilization. So we'll see if it can start perking above here. Yeah, like Dan is saying, like Triple D, it's a completely different sector, but this is actually a little better. Well, yes and no. This part of it is a little better because yesterday was a larger bar. However, the weekly chart broke below this big wide range bar. And that's not what prices should do after forming a wide range bar. We like to see them stay in the upper half because this is a power bar. So, this pattern is one that supports, it could pop up and maybe test the 50. In reality, we really don't know what it can do. But we look at how things came down. We look at, did it break support versus stabilizing at support? Did it break below the wide range bar? 100% retracement. So weakness there. So this is nice, but there are other elements to looking at a chart that say, hey, does it have it all? Type the wrong thing again. So this doesn't have the larger bar like Triple D does. Excuse me. But while it's 100% retracement of this advance, it went sideways for a while. So time, part of the void, the momentum part of the void, and it comes all the way back down to the prior pivot low, whereas Triple D is kind of like in no man's land, but trying to create some support. So if we can get some type of wider bar here, this could be attractive as a short-term trade. Now, obviously, it's counter trend, but looking at what I've explained, suggested, hey, it could go up there, maybe test 200, maybe it could surprise us. You can look LVS, kind of picked up a little bit momentum there, broke the low. So not in alignment like the other is, but coming down to its support. So it's lagging, but maybe it turns with it. A win would be the better choice. All right, broader markets. SPX just stalled up there, up at the high, doing nothing. Futures, we looked at this yesterday and it just chopped within the range, going nowhere, and it's still going nowhere. We got all these earnings that have come out. And you can see whatever Facebook was down quite a bit, and Apple, whatever, correcting here. It's not doing much here. Whatever, this bio is getting destroyed. That's why we don't trade bios, holding them overnight. PayPal down a whole bunch. Uber, kind of retesting there, maybe just jiggling around. What is that? 44-ish. So that's down here. The Chinese stocks. What's Nvidia doing? They're doing nothing, holding up there. Things are pretty much a mess. Q's doing absolutely nothing. Big wide range bar down in the lower half. So just like we look at green bars and say, well, we want to see it, the green bar stay in the upper half. When we see a big red bar, we want to see it stay in the lower half. And so far, that's what's happening. We'll see if some selling picks up there, push it back down. We're waiting. Things just going sideways. We don't have any type of trigger type of situation. The trend is still up. This broke down. It went back up again. It's consolidating. Maybe got to get more earnings out of the way. So we don't know. Momentum slowed when it went up here because this was a big momentum push, right? No pivots. And it breaks. Yeah, Amazon's coming out, reminding me. And so it took out the high, but it just barely took out the high. Earlier in the week, we were looking at whatever it was, and I talked about taking out a high with authority before it starts to retrace. Obviously, this didn't, but it was the stronger going up. And, that was a little bit better, getting further above the high. But ideally, it would have gotten even a bit further. But so far, it's holding up and up above what we call minor support. The Russell just whipping back and forth, back and forth. Bios. Bit of a turnaround. Right? I like this retest. We'll see if this is a bottoming tail bar at the end of the week. This might be a play for next week. Bios have been going nowhere for a long time. This is starting to turn around. So these regional banks and biotechs are a big part of the Russell. And if they can start moving up, maybe the Russell will try and go up within this range that it's in. It's been just a mess the whole year. The Dow, just, it's pretty much the same everywhere. The markets were waiting for these earnings, waiting for the Fed. Now, there's more earnings coming out, but there's a lot of big companies have reported, and the markets are, for the moment, consolidating the gain from this move up. So looking at the weekly charts, we see these wider range reversal bars, whether it's a bottoming tail bar or, we're always Jackson Hole, we're always waiting for something. Right. Bitcoin, up against resistance, factory work, look to the left. Does it stay in the upper range there? Getting a wide range bar on the weekly. And we've talked about these pivot lows and bottoming out for quite a while, and it got going. So the next part of the thought process is, once it reaches resistance, what does it do? Sometimes they just collapse right back down to the bottom of the range, like the Russell did. Ideally, it goes sideways. And what I like to see, that sideways price action, let's just assume this stayed like this, just did nothing all day today. I like to see the next bar break below that and then come back up again. And that pattern historically is one in which it has consolidated enough with a correction bar that it could go up. All right. Crude oil. By the dippers, taking it back up, and not exactly the type of what I was talking about with Bitcoin, because it's not up at the resistance area, the 100% retracement, but the wide range bar igniting off the low and negating this one suggests it could go up. And this is the kind of price action. It's not the same as what I was talking about there, but it's the same in what we look for within correction bar, bullish price action at resistance where it goes sideways, and you get a break below a bar. And, kind of forms a little launching pad for it to be able to go up. Gold is up here today, right? Gold's popping. Had this choppy descent down to the pivot low. Look to the left. I mean, if you forget that one concept, put it on a Post-it note and put it on your computer. Look to the left. Right? And if you've got fib lines, VWAPs, GAN lines, speed lines, trend lines, any lines, take them off. So all you got to do is look to the left. Can't be any simpler. I know it just flies in the face of our weird human nature of wanting things to be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. That's part of the checklist, right, Joe? That's part of the checklist, right? And I don't think that's on the checklist that, we talk about support and resistance, but those words should be on there, right? Look to the left. So here's a little type of a breakdown failure, greater than 100% retracement. And I actually mentioned this yesterday as this bar was forming. I explained it wasn't the same as gold, which was the textbook type of breakdown bar failure, because this was the even bars and it broke in the inside bar. But you see a little bit more rounding, just showing a little nuance to the pattern. But the idea is the same in that this consolidation is close to this low. And because it's in a downtrend, it does bring in sellers. I'm not saying they're wrong. We don't know that they're wrong. This could have collapsed. Sometimes you don't get full retracements up to resistance. But when you get a wide range bar breaking below the low and you get the inside bar, it sets up the unexpected. That took out the high of the inside bar and up it goes. I'll just go back to this so you can see the similarity in the pattern. So when we look at patterns, we look at, hey, this is the textbook pattern that is like, okay, it's got everything about it. But as you learn there, you have to expand from there and saying, you know what, close enough for government work. And, that saying means, what, the government does everything sloppy, it rarely gets things right. But hey, it's close enough for government work. And so go ahead and do it. And yeah, that's what it means. It's close enough for government work. You wouldn't bet your life on it. But it's a setup that works. And while this one wouldn't be the textbook, it's just the idea of it being in a downtrend, having this pivot here. It breaks the low with a wide range bar and then the inside bar. And when it takes it out, it's got that shock element to it. And it brings in short covering and some natural buying. And if you were short this, it's a heads up. If you've got the thought process down, it's like, okay, wide range bar, inside bar. I want to see it break the low of the green bar. But if it takes out the high of the green bar, maybe you cut out half the position, because what this is, see the weekly chart? When you recognize this pattern, and as it starts to move up like this does, it's this two bars here are the beginning of the bottom of what will become a bottoming tail bar. And you can see the location to the left. So beginning to turn around, play a little catch up with gold. Dollar coming in here. And of course, oil going up. Let's see what the euro's doing here. Yep, look to the left. Now it's up at this resistance. So probably going to stall here. You can see the whip that's going on there. So buyer's not giving it up completely, but the wide range bar, things are getting all overlapping bars and expanding ranges. So this is beginning to develop where it could go higher. And as I'm looking at this, these moving overnight, but let me focus on this. It's over here now over the next couple of days, because you know what? Sometimes I prefer S&P and Qs, but they're just going nowhere right now. It's just more of a mess. So why fool around in there if you can trade this, or maybe some of the others. The pound was it's already up here, moved a little bit too much, but you got my point, is that just because one market is what you focus on primarily, when it starts to do nothing, you keep focusing there, you often get disappointed when nothing's going on, or you get chopped up, and we can move to something else. All right, interest rates pushing up here a little bit, but really going nowhere. At the bottoming tail bar, close to that little congestion area that it dipped into, but nothing going on. As far as equities go, bonds go, there's not much going on here. And keep the powder dry. Don't get chopped up. Look at other markets to trade, and individual stocks. Right? There's lots of stocks that can be traded. I pointed out to Dan Fubu this morning, which we've traded in the past, and then it kind of lost its mojo, and now pivot low, lower low, and then momentum slowing down, trying to make a higher low there. And you can see kind of head and shoulders type of a bottom. And the weekly chart, when it popped up here, ideally it would have went sideways and pushed up, but that didn't work out. So maybe it's ready to try and move up here. Anyway, all yours, Dan. Last week bar, S&P last week bar is a buy bar above the high of last week. Second, the ideal scenario, this is going up for a while. This is a correction bar. So what we'd like to see is this week stay in the upper range and then trigger a buy, because it's had this resting period. That would be a much more desirable setup, because this begins to build up a consolidation on the smaller time frame. So if this was an hourly chart, and when we looked at this being, say, a 15-minute or a 5-minute chart, and we see this dip, this correction bar, we're putting together a lot of concepts, right? Well, it's not really absorbing supply, Thane, because there's nothing to the left. What it's doing is it's creating support. That's the idea of a 1, 2, 3 pattern, is that it creates support in a situation where there's nothing to the left. And the momentum move creates the void, which we know it could fall all the way back down if it doesn't create support. So that's the idea between a 1, 2, 3, what we call a 1, 2, 3, 4, which has a correction bar within it. All right. Oh, all yours, Dan.
All right, good morning. All right, all our opens are fine. We have a big watch list from yesterday scanning. We've been pretty mellow here with very heavy earnings season this week. It took me a while to get through all the earnings, and I didn't give it to you all yet. Um, Here I went through. These are all candidates for credit spreads. Obviously there's some directionals in there. There's going to be some others too that I couldn't tell the gap this morning. Um, for example, look at HGV. It's a reverse head and shoulders and a downtrend, but target 42, low 42s. That's a trade, but I can't see where it's gapping. So I don't know yet. I just saw the Swabby coming by the ticker, and I read in the journal they I think this was the gun company settled for 33 million on some gun shootout at school. Um, that's just the lawyers at work. They want to blame whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but they put more blame on the manufacturer as opposed to the net pulling the trigger. America is a blame someone else society. You walk down the street and fall in a big old hole in the sidewalk because you're staring at your damn iPhone. Guess what? You're gonna sue somebody. It's not my fault. Thomas, Dunking, Pfizer. We were watching Dunking yesterday. Yeah, Dunking. Yeah, we were watching this all morning yesterday. Had a nice close. It looks like it might go to the 200. Pfizer gap down 42.20. Ooh, that's an ugly gap. Did this have earnings? I think it did. You all know, in my view, anything that just rips into earnings, I don't care where it opens, up, down, or sideways. I personally have a bearish bias. That doesn't mean I'll act on it. But this is an ugly, ugly gap, what we call a bull trap. Biggest wide range bar. Look, that's the biggest wide range bar. Look, since December, right? So that's a picture of greed, of excessive demand, far from the 20. This would be what we call a climactic sell setup. I would love this to gap up $3 and then just short a 10-minute low, because that would be the final rocket fuel. But yeah, that's a short idea plus a call spread, definitely. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got Pfizer in this. I got a monster list of earnings here today. Sam, yeah, I made the comment, pot stocks. The pot stocks yesterday were off to the races. I don't trust pot stocks in the morning. They did close strong. I said into the close yesterday they look higher, but we got damaged weeklies. So it's just a matter of finding, as a new trade, Cron looks the best to me. See, because I have a bigger price void. Tilray is already getting close to its, um, close to its target. All right, let me put Cron on top of Tilray, because Cron to me is the best. Like I said, day trade, new trade, day trade, new trade. That's a nice ring to it. What else did you say? Qualcomm, GM. Here, this thing scrolls. Qualcomm, GM, BC, plug. So I gotta type them. Um, Plug over yesterday's high, but you still got that prior high over there. So I'd rather something that's clear to prior high. Bravo Charlie 99. No, that's junk. We had zero interest in that. It's gapping right to a gap fill in a trading range, no price void. Zero interest. GM. 56.82. Maybe 30-minute high. Ford had earnings. So I'm assuming GM's on the back of Ford. Qualcomm, 146. Yeah, Qualcomm's a bullish gap. Sure. So watch a pullback on Qualcomm and as a wow, big old price void on the weekly. So yeah, that's a watch. Sure. I'll put that in the window. Another computer. Hey Thane, your drop down. Thane's asking about Wells Fargo, WFC. Sakshan, do I have any Indian data? Of course I don't. I only have US data. Um, Greg might, but you know, just because Interactive Brokers has access to, I think, 28, maybe 32 markets, IB's the best.
Trading View has it. If you send us symbols, we can, during the, not a pre-market, but we can bring up Trading View. That's free. And I think they have Indian market data.
PayPal getting whacked on 285. It's a bearish gap, but it's a big gap. So, you know, trading gaps, put it in a 5-minute window and see how it sets up. Piton, there's no trade there. It's just, that's just going sideways and it's flat, opening flat. I don't know what to do with Piton. Overstock, 70, yeah. But now that's going to be down 4 bars near a prior low, so that's kind of difficult. KWeb had that nice Bull Island reversal yesterday with a beautiful closing 15-minute chart. So that as price void still might go. I noticed Diddy, you know, this is the one that China started attacking. I think the news was I forget, somebody might think about taking them on private to get the heck away from regulators. But wait, even if you went private, that ain't gonna stop the government from coming after you. That as government don't give two hoots of who owns you. But at least you don't got to deal with the SEC. TW, yeah, this is a buy setup. It's in an uptrend. It's a pullback, bottoming tail, rising 20. So the entry, you know, the way it trades intraday, you got to, well, look, I was going to say, you got to get it at a big stop. I don't like the way it trades intraday at all. That is a nasty, whippy pattern. But yeah, my marble alarm just went off. Yep, John. So 5-minute high is how we trade those, right? Tick 1144. Let's put marble right here. So, oh, HGV. Remember, I was waiting for that to open. Now it's down, so I have no interest. We got nice gaps in the market here. Remember, I said FOMC. You know, we talked about it a lot, and I just, in my bones, didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal yesterday, and so far I was right. Just because stupid Fed politics, they're tiptoeing, not disturbing the punch bowl. So, you know, so far they're doing what they want. All right. Yeah. So 5-minute high, Marvel is a go. If it stabilizes here on support, maybe we get in early. Moss here, so it did have a gap breakout. I posted 30-minute high. We'll also keep an eye on it, maybe early. Yeah, that's beautiful. Sam, that's a beautiful gap trade. Buy 5-minute high. Stop yesterday's low. I love gaps that just go over resistance with a price void. Yep, that's a beautiful one. In fact, next week we're doing topping patterns empty live. The week after that, gaps. I'm gonna put this one in there. Steve, give me a second. But no, of course I'm not concerned, or else I would have said it, right? So give me a second.